Welcome to the Writer Inspired Show. I'm here today, episode 5, with Michael. Really delighted for you to join us.
Just tell glad me to be here.
Brilliant. I
appreciate
it. Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Michael Lacy. I am an author, and I've written multiple books. One is a best-selling book, or was on Amazon. That's my worship book. It's called As We Fight, and it's like a devotional to help worship leaders. And then I decided to move into fiction. So I've written an entire series for fiction. Okay. And yeah, it's a lot of work. And I've published the first book in 4 parts, but now I'm in the process of relaunching all of it. So I'm deep in rewrites, and it is overwhelming. But that's where I am with that. I also help other authors as well whenever I can. I've helped a few authors get bestsellers, and I love doing that. So I kind of started a little side business called Story Builds Creative. So I help whenever I can. And then I'm involved in a couple collaborations as well. So I'm pretty busy with all this. And this is just one of my part-time jobs. So I'm very busy.
Yeah, no, I bet you are. And say, what's your series about?
My series is about a world underground. So it's called the Underlands Series. And it's just about different pockets of the earth where civilizations have arisen. And that's where our myths come from. So like the golden cities, El Chibola and the 7 cities of gold and all those things. That's one underland. And then another underland is like Atlantis. So that's one that's found under the sea. So basically anyone who has gotten out of there, that's where the myths have kind of come from. Okay. So, yeah.
Fair enough. So with all that, what's your biggest challenge? I think I know what's going to come in, but what is your biggest challenge?
Well, it's knowing what to focus on, right? So that's one of the biggest things. Right now, I have other jobs that are actually paying the bills, and I love those jobs as well. But it's hard to devote time to my writing and time to the writing business when I don't see immediate income or revenue from that. But I also want to be better, so I'm putting time in with some classes and just writing a lot of short stories. So that's the main thing, is just trying to figure out how to value this time, because I don't see a return. And I'm so focused on providing for my family. I've got 2 little boys, like a 1-year-old and 4-year-old. So yeah, it's a busy season.
Yeah, I bet it is, especially the 1-year-old. I know
what it's
like. Yeah, so basically you want some clarity of what you need to do to go forward. The question I would sort of put back to you really is, what do you love the most? What's the best part of what you do?
And that's, I think I love coming up with premises for different stories. So that's a love-hate, because I love it, but I hate that I can't create all of those. So what I do to cure that little itch is I write a short story out of it. And then the problem is, all the short stories I start to fall in love with, and I want to turn them into novels and then into series. So I don't know that it's helping as much as hurting. But yeah, what do I love the most? That's one. I remember you and I have talked about this before, and that's the question I keep going back to. And part of me wants to see what will really have a solid return, as far as, the strongest story, the most engaged fan base. So I kind of want to make it marketable, but I also want to enjoy it. So I feel like I can enjoy anything if I see the end in sight. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I do understand. So the biggest thing, what I've said in previous podcasts, is that a lot of people don't realise that when you're first coming out and you're being an author and you're writing all these books and you put it out, it is chaos, because you haven't got this very clear, defined thing of what's working and what's for you. And some people say, oh, just do this way, but that's worked for them, but that doesn't always work for you. Right. So it very much, what I sort of say to people is what you love the most, and how to use that as your fuel to go forward. There's a couple of questions I've got from this too, and something that us humans are really focused on is, if we see progress, we're happy.
Yeah.
So you need to track your progress. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So at the moment, it is, and I've said in the group, it's like a tipping point. You know, you're going to spend time engaging with people, you're going to spend a lot of time talking to people, and it isn't easy. This isn't a job, which sort of like, you know, you could go like that and go, I've got millions of pounds, because, you know, we'd all be doing really well with it. It takes time to build that relationship up. So it's a case of building an email list. But the thing that I really ask you really is, do you journal? Is there something that you do each day where you sort of like, you appreciate, and do you set yourself goals and sort of track that progress? How do you sort of like manage your goals and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've worked with a kind of a small business coach, but he does some life coaching with me. His name is Lance, and their business is Denali Consulting Team, which is great. But they definitely, he's pushed me to do that. So I do my big boulders each day that I'm hitting, that I'm knocking out. But what I do is I'll put a boulder in each job. So in my writing, I'll try to do at least one big boulder in that, and then, you know, whatever smaller things I can get done in that time. So yeah, I have that. It's not very organized. It's more like a notes section on my phone, and then a new notes section and a new notes section. So I do have issues organizing some of my chaos, like you said. So, but yeah, I do set goals, and I do see them getting taken down, but it's tiny bits. What I tell Lance is, it's like a statue, and each day I chip something off of it. Right. But it's hard to see the progress when you're chipping a little bit around the whole thing until, you know, maybe a year later, you're like, oh, there it is. So, yeah.
That's fair. There's a couple of things that are coming from that, just sort of comments really. Obviously, you're saying about chipping away, which is great, but do you go back and track back what you've done? Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. I don't think I do. I think I just stay focused on the next task. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I would encourage you to do is have a folder on your phone or on your laptop, whatever like that. So any great messages you've had from people saying, wow, your book's amazing, any reviews you've had, anything that you feel is a milestone moment, bestseller, for example, writing 5 books, re-editing, anything you feel to be, go back and do that, and that will track your progress. The thing is keep going and having that sort of like fuel inside yourself to keep going. And there's going to be a point where you're going to give up because you don't see the progress, because each day you can't. Does that make sense? You know, you don't see how far you've come, because your brain deliberately just resets everything. You know, it's quite crafty for that. So there's I don't want to advertise it. I've got an app that's coming out for me that will that I'm launching, which is helping people set daily goals. So they do a morning routine and an evening routine, and then it actually notifies you each day how you're getting on. But I do recommend, there's another really great thing, and again, this is entirely up to you, it's an invitation. There's a gentleman called Brendan Burchard, and he has a book called The High Performance Planner, and basically it goes through, and again, you know, obviously if you've got this coach, it may not be something that you need to look at, but for me, it's an absolutely amazing bit of kit, and it goes through what daily things you need to look at, what you appreciate, what 3 things you're doing, and then it gives you a chance. And something that I really encourage you to do, regardless of whether you buy the book or not, is reflect every 7 days. How am I getting on? What's my performance like, etc. Because then you'll start to see that you're showing progress. And the biggest thing that I would say, and I know this is me going on a bit, the biggest thing that I would say with authors is that they look at happiness as, I'll earn £2,000 a month, or $2,000 a month, or bestseller, or etc. You can't do that, because you don't have the control. We don't have the control over who is going to buy your book. We don't. We can advertise it. We can market it the best we possibly can. We can do podcasts. We can make it the best it possibly can be. The cover, all that type of stuff. But we do not have that control. And that's down to something else. So what I would encourage you to do is fall in love with the process and have faith that actually it is going to get better and it is going to be easier. But I do encourage you to start tracking back each week. How have I gotten this week? And then you go, actually, I've shown progress. I can't control what other people are doing, but I've shown progress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What would you say if, say, I get to the end of a week and I look at my list and it depresses me instead of encourages me? So what would you kind of say to that?
Yeah, what can you do better? So for me as well, there's quite a few questions I put into that. Are you giving yourself too much to do? Is that
I
at
am.
least something?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm terrible at it. I have to spend every couple of months. I go on this cycle where I go, I'm doing too much. I'm pushing myself. No, no. The biggest thing for me, and again, this is a learning for me. This may help you as well. Is that I've always been a workaholic where I do 70 plus hours a week,
Yeah.
in my job. And what my dream is to have a job where, not a job, a career, a calling where I don't do that sort of 20, maybe 30 hours a week maximum, because I want to spend time with my family. 50% of my time I want to be being. So why am I taking that freedom away from me now?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Because
Yes.
that's the whole thing. So, and I know it's really difficult for you. So you've got a 1 year and a 4-year-old. That's where you need to invest your time, and that's what I would do. And I always to give myself 3 jobs, and then 3 jobs a day, target it out. So what we tend to do as humans, we tend to sort of do a year, we give ourselves too much expectation. But if we give ourselves a 3-year plan, it tends to be, quite an easy sort of woolly thing. So that's what I would look at too. And then, just head towards it. But goals for me, I'm learning that actually they can become a rod to hit myself with and say I'm not doing good enough. So really sort of like give yourself something challenging, but also be understanding. What's the simplest way I'm going to get to that point? And that's really what I would sort of like ask yourself. And the last thing I'll say on this is, and something I've learned recently, look at what your list is for the day and say, what do I not need to do today? What do I not need to do? And take it away. Because at the end of the day, there is no point in being completely physically exhausted, pushing yourself and trying all this stuff. If but the journey is part of the process. It's enjoying what you're doing. So that's what I would encourage you to look at.
Yeah, that's great. One thing my wife asks me a lot, she's like, why are you in such a hurry? Like, what's the rush? And I was like, I got to get these books done by summer. Everybody's going to be reading in the summer. Or I got to get them done by the fall, because when people are in the fall, they start cozying up and they're going to read in the fall. Like, I keep putting all these crazy expectations on myself. But also, you and I are probably similar. We watch a lot of people who are just really successful and doing a great job in the publishing industry. And the reason they're so efficient is because they put all those years in the past. It's not, their first year probably didn't look anything like their recent year. So yeah, I agree with you on that. And as far as the time with family, that's really my number one. And it's easy to lose sight of that, but I like to live in the future in the sense of, if in 20 years from now, what would I give to spend one day with my 1-year-old and my 4-year-old? It's like, I would give the world. It's like, why don't I give that a little bit of that world now? So I don't need to make all the money in the world. We don't have to be the most financially secure, because, that money comes and goes, but family just happens once, so I really want to spend time with them, but you still have to work forward, move forward. So
yeah, it's a bit of a sort of catch-22 situation for me. And I don't know whether it is for you, but I'm doing this for my kids, so I'm driven to these things. But then also, I've got to understand that I'm taking myself away from the kids while I'm trying to help them.
Exactly.
So it's a bit of a sort of vortex really there. But as I say, for me, it's just sort of like going, okay, being understanding and kind to yourself. And there is times as well that I've learned. I go in a manic phase where I'll go sort of 3 or 4 weeks where I'm doing loads of hours and I'm sort of like burning out, and I'll stop. And then, and I'll take out my kids, and then, does that make sense? And it's sort of really, I really have to pull myself in, because I've been so hard on myself, and it is being kind and understanding to yourself. One person that I would recommend you look at, and he's a coach. You'd probably be able to look him on YouTube. He's a gentleman called Rich Litvin, and he's a life coach, and he goes really deep into life coaching, helping people. But his message is just absolutely phenomenal, and I think it might be something that resonates with you. That he's not there. He and what we do as human beings, we sort of trade our life for work for hours. It shouldn't be like that. And that's something that takes time, and he suggests that it takes over 4 years for you to start being successful in what you're doing. And Brendan Bouchard, which again I've spoke to you about earlier, he says 5 years you should stay in what you're doing. So don't move out of it, just stay into 5 years, and you'll start to see success, because you'll start to see things that other people don't. So I've really tried to get on that, because I have a tendency, like, that's not working next, so that's really what I recommend you do.
That's great. I will definitely look those guys up.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Yeah, you're welcome. They're really good, honestly. I think they're brilliant, really. So, as far as your vision's concerned, so in 3 years' time, where do you want to be, and most importantly, how do you want to feel?
Yeah. So I should probably have all this written down.
That's
Everyone has
fine.
like a 5-year plan, and
Yeah.
then something like a worldwide pandemic out of nowhere changes things a little bit.
It does.
um,
It does.
so yeah, for the entire world. But
Mm.
after what you've said, after be kind to yourself. That's a very powerful phrase, and um, I think I used to say I wanted to have the series done in a year, and I wanted to have about
Mm.
probably 4 or 5 books per year. But I think it'd be safer to say 4 or 5 per 3 years. So maybe in 3 years I can have a highly polished series ready to go, as well as a couple of resources for um, new authors, as I'm working on some resources for those, but they are as scattered as my mind is right now. So I need to, I don't want to just pour all of it out. You probably in our Facebook group that you lead, you probably
Mm.
see this. If you put too much information out, it's overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And if you do one step, people more likely will follow the one step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And I'm learning that lesson as far as leading people, as coaching and helping them, is you don't you don't lay out the whole thing in front of them, or else they'll probably quit right away.
Yeah.
I probably
Exactly.
would have, if you put my future on there, I would be like, oh, never mind, let's do something else.
Yeah.
But
I'm not.
yeah, but since it was like, just get your rough draft done, I was like, okay. And then you get that done. Now let's get some editing, and then a step at a time. That made all the difference. So yeah, I would say just taking those steps one step at a time for those, and then in 3 years, I would like to see uh, a good backlist of maybe one series, and maybe like a finished series, and then maybe the start of a new series. So that could be probably about 6 books from now. But again, most of those are written, and I'm in about the 3rd rewrite on some of them. And on the first book, I'm in probably the 7th rewrite. So that the thing is, we get better, right? And
Yeah.
that's the hope.
Yeah.
And when I started my author journey, it was only a couple of years ago, and I'm only in my 30s. Someone asked, "What do you want to do with this?" And I say, "Well, by the time I'm 60, I want to have written something amazing."
Mm.
And so I think 30 years of practice will probably get me there. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the mindset I started with. But once you jump in, you start seeing everyone else is publishing every month, and you're like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do this. Like there's a lot of pressure from that, but
Yeah. There is. But
that was a long answer.
no, that's good. That's great. That's the detail I wanted from it. So the biggest thing as well, you can have other people. So there's some authors that will far out book every 2 months, but you've got to understand as well that you haven't just got your writing career to focus on. You've got
Right.
other jobs as well. So, and they're doing this full time. And one thing that I would sort of like, before I ask you the next question, one thing I would sort of like look at as well, when we start earning quite a considerable amount of money, we will be able to focus on what we love the most, and we can
Okay.
go, do you know what, actually, I'm going to portion it out to somebody else. So, there's places like, and I'm starting to do it a bit, really, to be fair, places like Fiverr, Upwork, where I can go, right, okay, I don't really enjoy doing this part. I'm going to pay somebody else to do it. I don't really enjoy that part. I'm going to pay somebody else to do that. Perhaps get somebody to help me with social media, because we'll be able to afford it. So, it'll take a lot of that sort of stuff away, and we can focus on the stuff that we enjoy. But and that's sort of my end goal, really. That's where I want to be. I want to be able to sort of like oversee some of it, allow people to get on and do it, and then go, I just want to focus on what I love. So I love writing, I love publishing my books,
Yeah.
and I'll allow everybody else to worry about everything else, if I'm honest, and helping others. That's the real reason why I'm doing this, if I'm honest. But the main question I want to sort of say to you as well, sort of reiterate what was talked about. How do you want to feel? So after 3 years, you've got these books, you've been quite consistent, you've been kind of understanding yourself, you're earning good money from it. But how do you want to feel by that time? Do you want to feel sort of relieved? how do you want to feel? Do you want to feel sort of like,
Yeah. Man, this is a great question, because I feel like it's kind of loaded. I'm not sure if you got another side of it, but I've gotten to the end of things before and thought that would be, I've arrived, right? That was what I would expect. I've made it. And then what I realized is I've just taken another step on this staircase, and like a staircase that's the size of a pyramid, So, yeah, relieved is a word that we would seek after, but I think I just want to be fulfilled on a daily basis. And I want to work. I want to create things. Like, it doesn't matter. One of my other jobs is in woodworking. So I have a shop that I build things, and cool. Yeah, it's really fun. And but once I started having to make money with it, it started to take some of the fun away. So my goal with that is to only build the things that I want to build, but be so good at it that people will pay a certain amount for it. And then, so it's similar to writing. I want to be able to focus on what I'm good at writing, because I have a very unique perspective on things. Of course, everyone does, which is the beautiful thing about writing. I want to be able to write these things that no one's ever thought of, and it just challenges their minds and inspires them and encourages them throughout like their lives. But it could just be for a day. One sentence could make their day, and that would be worth it to me. So yeah, I just want to be fulfilled and creating things that are life-changing. That's what I'm aiming for. I don't think I'll ever arrive. I don't think I'll ever be like relieved. I think I'll just be I don't know if there's a better word than fulfilled for me,
Okay. No,
maybe satiated. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. As I say, for me, we are following a path and we're going through it. It just gives you that inspiration. That's really sort of the question I wanted to sort of ask you, And again, one of the things that we really struggle with as authors, we have to go deep. And I say this before, we'll go really deep into our psyche to help people and the dark side of things sometimes as well, to these characters and bring out life. And that's quite exhausting. And we should be sort of appreciating actually what we do on a daily basis. That's pretty phenomenal to people, to shine a light on human, on humans and to help people and show actually what's possible and inspire them to move forward. Is there any questions you got for me? Is there any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, I'm curious how you're creating so much great content and staying sane through all of that. Because like the things that you're creating in the Facebook group are great, and I know you wrote your book and released it within the last month. So yeah, I'm just really inspired by you, and I hope you know this, but so many of us in the group appreciate you and your time and what you're putting into it. But yeah, I'm curious how you're like, one, how do you choose the direction that you're leading the group, and then two, how do you keep that content coming and keeping it valuable and managing your time?
That's great questions actually. What I do is I tend to ask a lot of polls. So one of the things that I realized about 3 months ago is that the direction of I was taking the group in the wrong direction, because I thought it was a lot of people that were maybe had one book out, but mostly people that hadn't got a book out and weren't too sure. But actually that's not the truth. You've got people in there from sort of like 1 to 3 books and more. So I keep asking polls because I want to know who I'm aiming at, and then I also ask what things you struggle with, so that I can always keep focused on what it is. And I'm pretty adept, and something that I feel I'm quite good at is seeing what people struggle with. So when I ask questions in the group, they're giving me the information to go right, and that will inspire me to write other questions. Does that make sense? So people in the group struggle with marketing, struggle with what their goals are, and then I'll put questions in there, and there's times when nobody answers, and I know that they don't know the answer. You're not going to make it, if you've got a message where you've got 150 comments on it, and then do another question and nobody answers, that I know that, so there's a problem there, and I go, right, okay, I need to teach those people that answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I put in there sort of like, who's your audience? And nobody knew who their audience is. Well, that's not going to help you write your book properly. That's not going to help you get the people that you need. That's not going to help you with Facebook ads. That's not going to help you all of it. So okay, start teaching them. So I get that, and I get inspired because again, I get messages every single day, And then when somebody messaged me and said, look, what do I do? I'm really struggling with it. Again, that gives me that impetus to keep going. One thing that I have done over the last 5 years is I read loads of books. I read about 40 books, a year, which is quite sad. But I've just recently read a book with like 400 odd words, a romance book, because that's what's helping me for my next book. So, but I am learning and improving myself. So I sort of like internalize a lot of what books are. Most of the books I read, to be fair, are fiction and non-fiction, and basically self-help books and stuff. And that helps me, and there's times where I would give myself sort of like loads of jobs to do, and I just have to go, look, do you know what, Chris? You're physically and mentally exhausted. Best probably you're going to do today is just put some posts on there, and that's pretty much all you're going to be able to do today. Just take care of yourself, look after yourself, and stop. Whereas in the past, I never would have done that. So that's how I keep myself sane. I'm very fortunate as well. I've got an amazing wife that will tell me exactly how it is.
Yeah.
So like, Chris, come on, it's time to spend some time with family now. So okay, cool. Right, so I've got that too. So I have a lot of support through this as well, which I think is really helpful. But I tend to take a lot to heart as well, and I'll sort of observe. So there'll be times where people will post in, and I'll be looking at the messages, and they might not even reply to it, and I go, right, okay, I can help them. And one of the biggest things that I see in the group at the moment, and I did, the social media thing I did with Pinterest and with Facebook, I went right, bang. There's loads of information, and I thought, hang on a minute, this isn't working. So I took build it a lot away, and just focus on little bits to allow people to move along that way. So that's what I do. And again, this is for everyone too, and for you guys. The biggest challenge you'll face is your expectations of yourself and the mindset that you have for yourself. And I'm really appreciative that I'm getting so much insight into who I am, which is going to help me get through that. And with each thing, and what I said to you earlier about how do you want to feel? Well, I know how I want to feel by the end of it, by the end of 3 years. But then there's another thing after that. The biggest question I would say to you really is, who do you want to be by the end of it? Do you want to be, for me, I want to be somebody who's more confident. I want to be somebody that's be able to go, right, webinars to do, get thousands of people on the webinar. I want to be able to do this. There's so much that I want to be. So that's really what I do. And I people like Rich Litvin, people like Ben Bashard, there's a few others. I look at them and say, what can I learn from them? I don't want to nick ideas from them, because that's pointless. I want to be my own creative person. What can I learn from them? What skills have they got that I need to take me to the next step? Rich Litvin's very calm, he's very assured in control, but he's very vulnerable as well, be very honest. So that's the long answer is that.
Yeah. No, that's great. Do you have any kind of software that you use that keeps you organized, like Evernote or some like a to-do list type thing?
I use my high performance planner journal. That's something I use on a daily basis. I check it in the morning and at night, and then obviously if I've got monthly goals, I should check that as well. I have Evernote that I'll put notes in. And one thing again I'll say to you, when you're writing and you've got, oh my God, I've got to write this book, I put it in Evernote. So I know that just takes it away from my brain, because then you've got this rehearsal loop in your brain where you just constantly keep going back over it and go over it and over it. I need to write this book. I need to write this book. No, okay, it's in here. I shall come back to it. So I have I've got Pro Writing Aid for my editing. Loom is really good for videos, so I use that. And that's pretty much it, if I'm honest. I don't have loads of sort of like different ones.
Sure. Yeah, I use Scrivener, which is great, but my files I just have so much in the files. So I have to search with keywords because I'm not super good at organizing. But yeah, I do have a couple different things like that where, I've got my notes for certain things. I use Wunderlist, but they actually just closed Wunderlist or shut it down. So I'm having to migrate that to something else. But yeah, I was just wondering, I'm always looking for the next, organizational software.
Google Docs is really good, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I use Google Docs. Yeah, I use all of the Google stuff. It's great. I love them.
Yeah, so Google Docs I have a look at. With Scrivener as well, you can put it in chapters, can't you? So when you set it up, you can put it in chapters, and then you can sort of all compile it and before sending it across. I used to use it. I found Google Docs a lot more simpler for me. Now, obviously, that will change when I go into my romance, because I might have to excuse me, change the chapters around, which is going to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
But before that, I found the Google Docs like easier because you can just send it off to people, you know, like I said, in Word and this. I know you can do the same on Scrivener to be fair as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, that's it from me. Is there any other questions you got before we finish?
No, I think that you've been really helpful. You've helped me mainly just be kind to myself, make sure I know that I'm moving forward. I'll get to a place that I'm aiming for eventually, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow or next week or next month. It could be down the road. And another big takeaway was how you said, you know, it's kind of escaping my mind. It was writing what you love and what you're most passionate about. And I don't know if you said this, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but not worrying about the market as much as just what is naturally coming out. But then the other side, learning from you, was that you do have an audience. You need to find your audience, know who they are, and then you need to listen to them. So find out what they're liking, what they're leaning towards, make those adjustments, and kind of, you know, follow along with them. It's like the old analogy with the river. You can try to stand in one spot, and the river will keep changing, but the man will keep changing as well. But if you go with the river, you'll get a lot further and a lot faster. So
yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing for me, if you know, as far as marketing is concerned, and I would recommend, if you've got the time, is to start building your email list.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've got it already, just focus on, have something on the back burner. So if it's like Facebook ads, just spend sort of $5 a day or whatever you can afford, and just sort of like bring people in that way, and then grow it like that. You know, book funnel I've found, and I've started to get a bit fed up with it, if I'm honest, because you get loads of people join it, and I think which is fabulous, and then you have the audacity to email them, and then they all unsubscribe. So like, well, what's the point in putting it in time? So I'm finding a lot more. I think 50% of the people that are joining me are actually leaving it as well. So, you know, that's something that I probably wouldn't recommend so much now. But yeah. Definitely that's what I'll do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Taking the time today. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed it too. It's been great.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon, and I'll see you in the group. Yeah,
I'll see you in the group. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for everything that you do, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.